What's up, mortals? It's Dante from the anime Underworld, and today we are back in Four Nights of the Apocalypse in Chapter 209, The Abduction. Father and son are walking through the fairy forest of Benwick for more training. What's this chapter have in store? Well, let's get into it. We begin this chapter on a rainy day. The entire fairy forest of Benwick is covered in a dark cloud as rain begins to pour down. Bond pauses their walking, noticing the rain, and is rather reminiscent of that day. We all know what day that is, but Lancelot wants to change the subject, asking, "So, what's the training?" Bond assures his son, "Oh, it's nothing like that." The Fairy King explains, it's all about perfectly aligning yourself with your surroundings. The plants, the trees in the forest, the stone walls, the crowds in town, etc., etc. "So you mean to fully clear out your mind?" Bond is confused by his son's question, asking, "Clear your mind, huh?" But in a flash, he's gone. You know, I wonder how Bond did at hide and seek. Bond is nowhere to be seen, but his voice is heard, mocking his son. "No, I don't think that's quite it. I mean, here I am, talking into your mind right now." Wait, Bond, when did you get telepathy? Lancelot is not exactly happy, wondering where he is now that he lost sight of him. Bond is asking his son while still hiding, "Do you know what people and animals can perceive outside of their five senses?" The prince has no idea, but suddenly he does. The answer? Emotion? Ding ding ding, that's it, emotion. An easy example is when someone wants to kill you. I mean, murderous rage is an emotion, so Bond has the right idea. So the answer to this trick is to shut down those emotions? Bond says that, well, yes, it's not that easy, but hey, now's as good a time as any. Would you mind telling me? Tell him what? Bond really wants his son to open up. You've tried to discuss the events of 8 years ago a few times now, but kept hesitating at the end. You were investigating a mysterious abduction, only to get abducted yourself. What's the truth behind that? Finally. Guys, we are finally about to get the answers as to what happened 8 years ago or so at the end of the Lancelot one-shot when he and 𝐬𝐮𝐭 mysteriously disappeared at the end of the chapter. Where they went, and why Lancelot has been known as the Prince of the Lake. But before we can get the answer, Lancelot thinks back to that day, back when he was very young with 𝐬𝐮𝐭 before she went crazy. Remember, this is before she went crazy. And thinking of the words that happened that day. Noticing that the rain starting to part, like some sort of entrance, which sealed their fate. On that very day so long ago, the young Lancelot and not-so-crazy 𝐬𝐮𝐭 were braving the storm, wondering what's going on with 𝐬𝐮𝐭 asking Lancelot to not let go of her hand, like the big sister that she is. But in an instant, the intense storm stopped, leaving them soaking wet and very, very confused. And I mean very confused as the two, still holding hands, drenched wet, behold not the fairy forest of Benwick, but rather a very mysterious and really weird setting. No longer are they in the fairy realm of Benwick, but rather a very large lake, I guess, with a pitch black sky. Yeah, that's not the manga. The sky is actually pitch black. There's just a bunch of paths going around the road surrounded by water and ruins. Well, Toto, looks like they're not back in Kansas anymore. With no other option, 𝐬𝐮𝐭 advises that they're just gonna have to step up, work out the truth, and find a way out of there. The young Lancelot is excited, saying that he's up for the job. They're gonna find that abductor for sure. And maybe his dad's gonna tell him he did such a good job. Man, I really forgot how much young Lancelot really wanted his father's praise. It's kind of cute and sad at the same time.
A few moments later.
At least that's how he was going 3 days ago. Yeah, 10-year-old Lancelot has kind of reached his limits at this point. He's very tired. They still haven't found that guy after 3 days, or the exit for that matter. Wondering, why are they there? When is this gonna end? And Jericho, I feel really bad for her. The two decide to stop for a break, with Jericho analyzing what they've been going through for the past 3 days. They worked out a few things. There's only one path over the entire lake, and it just does not end. All the while, the young Lancelot is drinking from the lake like Augustus Gloop and Willy Wonka. But rather than falling in, he drinks from it and is completely refreshed. Which brings Jericho to saying part 2. Drinking the water fills them up without needing to eat. And strangest of all, they don't get tired. I would kill to have that water. It would make my life so much easier. Young Lancelot jokes to Jericho, I bet Dad would love some ale made from this water. She tells him to be serious, but let's be honest, he would. But they're not alone, as something is poking its head, no, tentacle, from the water. And Jericho is quick to act. A strange tentacle wraps around the young Lancelot, having him to call out to Jericho for help. Jericho is quick on the save, drawing her sword and activating the spell Freeze Saber, saving Lancelot from a very, situational scene. Let's just say this would have gone in a very different direction if Lancelot was a girl.
Oh, meaning that's tentacle.
Fisherman's wife and Fisherman's wife 2, the retentacling.
But not wanting to be in that sort of situation, Lancelot grabs his spear angrily, yelling, how dare you try that on me? Dude, you have no idea what that thing was gonna do to you. He points his makeshift spear and activates a pretty premature and rather young version of Shining Road, hitting the tentacle dead on. At first, the two are watching, waiting for that thing to act, but the tentacle, it's left shaking and retreats back into the water. Lancelot is not happy that his premature Shining Road spell wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. Just slip away, his sure kill Shining Road. Jericho, though, is trying to cheer the young kid up by saying no, he fled from all the damage. You know, I really love this big sister and little brother dynamic that they have. Why the hell did Nakaba ruin this? It's so cute. I'll admit, it is weird seeing Shining Road, the OP mega spell that can attack anyone like a nuke, being essentially just a bottle rocket at this point. It's not the all-powerful spell that we know it to be, but it makes me curious as to what exactly made Lancelot go from this to this.
A few moments later.
10 days pass in their weird lake dimension and Lancelot is not having it. Wondering when are they going to get out of there. Jericho is at her wit's end but still manages to be the big sister and tries to calm him down, saying they'll find the criminal and the exit, even though that's all she's been saying for the past 10 days. But Lancelot, what did you expect? You've been going to the same place she has, and there's been no leads. Honestly, at this point, why even bother looking for the criminal at all? However, Jericho notices something. Out in the distance, near one of the ponds of the lake, there's something floating in the water. The two rush off to see what it is, but to their horror, it's exactly what they were looking for. Not the exit, but it's the body of the peddler. The guy who went there before, who tried to, let's say, abduct Lancelot back in the day, and they found his body just floating in the water. Jericho is wondering what the abductor even wants from them. Why bring this man there if he's just going to die? Lancelot turns Jericho's attention away from the dead peddler and notices that he's not alone. The young prince points to more dead body floating in the water under the pitch black sky. This wasn't the first time that someone entered the realm. The question remains, were they going to be next? Thankfully not, because 20 more days passed, so I'd say they've been in this realm for more than a month, as Lancelot and Jericho just relax on a hill, looking at the pitch black sky and talk. Lancelot asks Jericho, "Did you know, Master?" "No, what? You can't go to sleep already?" Young Lancelot starts explaining Bond's story, the one that we as fans know from start to about the time of the abduction. You know, when he was young, he was nothing more than a no-good bandit. He then met Elaine, got the immortal body, also took on a red demon, joined the legendary Seven Deadly Sins after a intense interview session with Meliodas, his trip to Purgatory to save Meliodas and the rest of his pals, casting away his immortality to save Elaine from death, and how in the end he was this great hero adored by everyone. 𝐬𝐿 told him all about it. 𝐤𝐵𝐾 knows all about this, although I wonder what else she told him, saying that he's a real good dad. But her eyes widen when she hears Lancelot saying, "I hope that he could be like that one day." Being the good sister that she is, she tries to assure him that he can get like that, but Lancelot yells that he can't. Lancelot breaks down. It's honestly really sad. He's bawling his eyes out, crying that they're gonna die there anyway, just like those people in the lake. He's worried about his parents, thinking that his mom's crying her eyes out looking for them, and he just wants to see them one more time. This is pretty sad. 𝐤𝐵𝐾 tries to comfort Lancelot, telling him to not cry, that she'll stake her very life in protecting the young boy. Again, I love the big sister and little brother dynamic. How did this get ruined? Dang it, Nakaba, why? While Lancelot is being comforted in 𝐤𝐵𝐾's arms, a new figure enters the fray, asking what's the matter. Finally, the two meet someone else in this realm, for better or for worse. We end chapter 209 with a mysterious figure, a woman with elven ears, black sclera eyes, and a rather dark expression on her face. This has to be the Lady of the Lake herself, you know, that figure who helped Merlin resurrect Arthur. We couldn't see her from the weird bubble that we saw her from the previous series, but now we can actually see her in her own realm. They've been surrounded by a lake. This is no doubt her realm. No idea what she's going to do with Lancelot and 𝐤𝐵𝐾, though it's probably not going to be too bad considering that by the end of the Lancelot one-shot, Lancelot returned from the realm being called the Prince of the Lake. Not to mention that Arthur found out how Lancelot is so incredibly strong and OP. The next few chapters are no doubt going to explain, or rather show, how Lancelot got so strong. The next few chapters could show why Lancelot is so strong, and how he and 𝐤𝐵𝐾 managed to escape the dimension of the Lady of the Lake. We'll have to see in chapter 210. What did you think of this chapter? Are you excited to see what's next? Let me know in the comments, subscribe to the channel for more 7 Deadly Sins or 4 Knights of the Apocalypse material coming your way, and more anime and manga related material coming to you very soon. But until then, this has been Dante from the Anime Underworld, and I'll see you mortals later.